Afternoon. I'm Sean Smith. I hope that each of you is enjoying your day. Let me begin by saying that it's an honor to address this forum to speak to fellow humanitarians. This is a unique opportunity, one that allows us to share with one another our hearts, our conscience concerning a subject dear to each of us, the sanctity of life. The issue we are discussing, of course, is that of abortion. I know, some of you may be saying to yourself, here we go. Which side of this insurmountable chasm is this guy on? Well, I'll answer that. Though I'll humbly ask you, regardless of your view, I will ask you to hear me out before you turn me off. For far too long, the issue of abortion has been cloaked with the failures of the extreme right or the extreme left. Failure to keep the issues grounded to fundamental premises, therefore causing us to lose our focus, divert our attention away from the core issue. First, let's establish a foundation. If we can accept that every human being has the right to live, and that this right to live should be protected by law, then we have established the first premise, the core of our foundation. None of us will venture to argue that premise. We are, after all human beings. As such, we concur that human beings have the right to live, and that if the law exists at all, it exists to protect all human beings from actions that end life. Second, if it can be established that from the moment of conception, an unborn fetus is considered to be a human being, then it can further be stated that the unborn have the right to live, and that this right to live should also be protected by law. Hold on, you say. I'll give you that first premise. It's that second premise that's the stumbling block. Good deal. That simplifies our focus, doesn't it? Instead of convoluting the issue with sidebars or begging the question, we have now simplified the abortion controversy by focusing on one single question. Is the unborn fetus considered a human being? If this can be established, then termination is a serious moral wrong. However, there are constraints that tend to put a wedge between the oppositions. The conservative right always plays the religion card. The liberal left always plays the women's rights card. So let's take these two major issues, nullify them, remove them from our crystal clear window, and let's move to a conclusion. As a moral debate and as a Christian, I personally believe that biblical reasoning is pertinent. Certainly, the Bible is resoundingly pro-life, though since this is a constraint, I will concede to allow science and philosophy reasoning to support our conclusion. Women's rights. Many people who personally oppose abortion also support women's rights. But a person's right over his or her body is not absolute. In most states, prostitution is illegal. Pouring illegal drugs into one's body is certainly not legal. But let's not continue to confuse the issue. The fetus is not technically part of the woman's body. It is a genetically distinct entity with its own genetic code. So having simplified our focus and having removed the major constraints, we can now quickly draw our conclusions from science and philosophy, our common ground as it turns out. Scientifically, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, life is individually characterized by the capacity to perform certain functional activities, metabolism, growth, reproduction, and some form of responsiveness and adaptation. Listen to this. After conception, human embryos exhibit all of these features. Leading embryologists confirm that from the earliest stages of development, the unborn are distinct, living, and whole human beings. Philosophically, Stephen Schwartz states that there is no moral significant difference between the embryo and the adult that results. Certainly nothing that would support abortion advocacy. I'm aware that abortion advocates would claim that the capacity for self-awareness is what bestows value on human beings. However, that's not an argument. It's an arbitrary assertion. Differences in size, level of development, environment, degree of dependency, they aren't relevant, such that it can be said that the embryo has no rights. Certainly there's more, but the pertinent factors are all right here. During this talk, I have suggested a means by which we can come to an accord by simplifying our focus, removing unwarranted bias and constraints, and through deductive reasoning, supported by science and philosophy. It is therefore reasonable to conclude that abortion cannot be morally justified and that it should be prohibited. Folks, if we are going to err, let's err on the side of morality for the sanctity of life.